It should have been a financial bloodbath. House prices were meant to collapse. You watched as the Bank of England hiked interest rates to their highest point in 15 years, crushing buyer affordability, and making the cost of borrowing crippling. Every analyst, every economist, every financial journalist predicted a monumental crash. Some forecasts were showing falls of 10%, even 15%. Estate agents braced for disaster. But listen closely, it never came. Instead, after a slight hiccup, prices just kept climbing. Why? Because the entire system, built over decades, is fundamentally rigged against the young and the renting. And while you were distracted by the crash that didn't happen, a far more catastrophic event was simply delayed. What's coming next is the moment 4.4 million households finally get hit by the agonizing pain that's been delayed for years, trapped on a ticking clock. The real mortgage crisis is only just beginning, and it's going to change everything for millions of British home buyers, forcing families to make impossible choices. The comfort you've seen in the headlines is a dangerous illusion. Before we dive into this financial mess, if you want the honest, unfiltered truth about the UK property market, the news the mainstream media is too afraid to touch, hit that subscribe button right now. We are here to cut through the corporate noise and show you what is actually happening to your money and your future. The speed of change was breathtaking and unprecedented. Rates went from almost nothing, you could get a mortgage for under 2% in late 2021, to a crippling 5.25% base rate in 18 months. This wasn't just fast, it was one of the fastest rate hike cycles in British financial history. The market was supposed to freeze, then fall apart. But here's the crucial detail the headlines are desperately hiding: millions of homeowners haven't felt that pain yet. They are the market's secret shield. They're still locked on old, dirt-cheap fixed deals from the pandemic era, some as low as 1.5%. They're comfortable, protected, and their stability is the single biggest reason the predicted crash failed to materialize. Their payments stayed low, preventing a flood of forced selling that would have tanked prices. While ordinary first-time buyers were completely priced out, those already on the ladder were insulated from the financial violence. But there is a terrifying expiry date on that comfort. Those deals are now routinely ending. That stability is rapidly fading, and the market's defense is about to collapse. That quiet, delayed pain is heading straight for them, and the fallout will be brutal, exposed, and impossible to ignore. But before that bomb goes off, we have to look at the unbelievable chaos that just slammed the market, how a last-minute change to a simple tax rule caused instant, gut-wrenching market whiplash. You need to understand the stamp duty shock because it proves how fragile the whole system is. April 2025 marked a massive, chaotic shift in tax rules. The fear of this deadline triggered a buying frenzy unlike anything we've seen in years, where logic gave way to sheer desperation. The devastating reason? The tax-free threshold for first-time buyers dropped dramatically from £425,000 all the way down to £300,000. Imagine this: you are poised to buy a £400,000 home, you've scraped every penny for a deposit, and then overnight, you went from paying zero tax to paying a shock £5,000 tax bill. March 2025 was an absolute scramble to complete purchases. Solicitors were overwhelmed, running around the clock. Buyers were racing against the clock, trying to beat a sudden, punitive tax hike. Now, the market has whiplash. Sales immediately plummeted. Buyers who missed the deadline are sitting on the sidelines, feeling cheated, wondering if they should wait for prices to fall now that fewer people can afford the new tax burden. But this volatility is a distraction. They've missed the bigger, more sinister picture. That tax spike was a nasty blip of short-term pain, but it still doesn't answer the core question: why didn't prices truly crash when rates were sky-high? The truth is unsettling, and it reveals the market's cynical foundations. You need to know the three hidden, ugly factors that actually kept prices elevated, the ones that keep the deck permanently stacked. The predicted crash failed because of three massive, structural factors most people completely missed, and they exposed the government's quiet failure. First, Britain is desperately out of homes. This isn't a complex economic theory, it's a simple, chronic supply shortage. Successive governments promised to build 300,000 homes per year. They've consistently missed that target. Not even close. When the number of people who want to buy wildly outstrips the homes available, prices stay high, no matter what happens with interest rates. It's the most important piece of the puzzle. Second, the cash army kept the market alive and thriving. More than half of UK homeowners now own their property outright, with no mortgage, a monumental shift around 2023. These aren't young, struggling families, these are people sitting on massive savings, unconcerned by a 5% mortgage rate. They buy bigger houses, they snap up second properties, often paying in cash or with enormous deposits. This wealthy group has entirely insulated the market from the pain felt by the rest of the country. Third, the uncomfortable, dark truth: the rich got significantly wealthier. While ordinary families drowned in the cost of living crisis, people with assets saw their wealth explode. They're buying property as investments, pushing first-time buyers out of the market, and turning homes into rentals. Their unlimited demand for assets has kept prices sky-high even as affordability for regular people completely collapsed, revealing a deep and widening social chasm. That collapse in affordability is the direct, brutal result, and it's crushing an entire generation under the weight of debt and soaring rent. Here's where the numbers become truly heartbreaking, and the emotional weight of the crisis becomes undeniable. The average UK house price is now sitting around £270,000. A first-time buyer in most areas needs a deposit of at least £27,000, often much higher in the south. Now, consider someone earning the median UK salary of £34,000. Saving that deposit would take them years, possibly a full decade, and that's assuming they can live on rice and beans. But while they are saving, the market is actively working against them. Rents have absolutely exploded, jumping a shocking 9.1% in the last year alone. That's one of the biggest annual increases ever recorded, and it's happening right now. Young people are trapped paying record, crippling rents, often 40% or 50% of their monthly income, which makes saving for a deposit literally impossible. This means they stay renting forever, which means landlords can keep pushing rents higher because demand is insane. It's a relentless, vicious cycle, a financial trap with no logical escape for millions. The dream of home ownership isn't just difficult, it's becoming a cruel, unreachable fantasy unless you have wealthy parents, the infamous bank of mom and dad, to bail you out. But even the people who already own their homes aren't safe. They're facing a delayed time bomb that's about to go off in their faces. This one should cause absolute panic. 3/4 of all UK mortgages are currently on fixed rates. That sounds boring and technical, but it's actually the most terrifying fact in the entire market. Here's why: when the Bank of England started hiking rates, most homeowners didn't feel it immediately. They were locked into those cheap fixed-rate deals from the low-interest era. Some are still on rates below 2%. They felt safe. But those deals are rapidly, relentlessly ending. The Bank of England estimates that a monumental 4.4 million households, nearly half of all mortgage holders, still need to remortgage onto these cripplingly higher rates between now and the end of 2027. When this happens, their stable world will be violently shattered. We are talking about their monthly payments suddenly jumping by £200, £300, even a devastating £500 per month for some families. That pain hasn't even fully hit the economy yet. The mortgage crisis isn't an abstract risk, it's a time bomb with a visible countdown. This will force millions of families to cut back dramatically, sell assets, or face the grim reality of defaulting. This deferred crisis will inject mass financial distress into the system, and it will be impossible for policymakers to spin away. If you look closely across the country, you'll see a deep, destabilizing crack running right through the UK property map, and it's getting wider every day. The biggest mistake you can make is thinking the UK property market is one monolithic entity. It's not. It's dozens of different markets, and they are now moving in completely opposite, jarring directions. Northern cities like Manchester, Birmingham, and Leeds are experiencing a quiet boom, seeing strong, consistent price growth of 2% to 3% or more. Why? They're still relatively affordable, offering breathing room compared to the south. Young professionals are moving there for job opportunities, and shrewd investors are piling in because rental yields are better. There's undeniable regeneration happening. But London and the entire southeast are a completely different, almost dead story. Price growth has basically stalled. In some parts of the capital, prices are actually falling, and the time it takes to sell a property has jumped 20% compared to last year. Sellers are getting nervous, and properties are sitting on the market for months. The problem is chillingly simple. Prices in the southeast are already so astronomically high that even with gradual interest rate cuts, the vast majority of people are permanently priced out. The market is running out of buyers who can actually afford to transact. This regional divide is only going to get wider, solidifying a two-tier property system and dramatically shifting the geography of opportunity in Britain. This brings us back to the uncomfortable, final truth. The system is failing, and it will keep failing unless we have the political courage to stop treating housing like a financial toy. Here is the raw, unvarnished bottom line. The UK housing market survived high interest rates not because it's fundamentally strong, but because of supply shortages, the insulating power of cash buyers, and the relentless, ugly concentration of wealth among property owners. Prices didn't crash, they're still rising. First-time buyers are being systematically priced out, especially in the South. Renters are trapped paying record rents with zero hope of escape. And millions of existing mortgage holders are about to see their payments jump dramatically, guaranteeing widespread financial hardship. This isn't a functioning housing market, it's a crisis dressed up as financial success. Rising house prices are not a sign of a healthy economy, they are a sign of a broken one that has become pathologically addicted to property inflation. Until we fundamentally change our thinking, treating a stable home as a basic human need rather than a gambling investment vehicle, this crisis will only get worse. More people will be locked out. More wealth will concentrate at the top. More young people will be forced to give up on ever owning a home. This is not meritocracy, it's an aristocracy. If this deep dive finally opened your eyes to what's actually happening in the UK housing market, hit that like button. Drop a comment and tell us your story. Are you a renter watching prices spiral out of reach, or a homeowner dreading that looming remortgage deadline? We want to hear your truth. The UK property market is at a crossroads, and what happens next will define the financial future and the very structure of British society for millions. Stay informed. Stay ahead. Subscribe now.